of some ayahs and hadith that even the local culture and custom can be a source and a basis for deciding what is the right thing to do versus what is the wrong thing to do. And so in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. So Allah is commending all husbands, you must live with your wives in the best possible way that you know. And of course, Prophet ﷺ living the example of the Quran is the best. But the scholars understood also in this, that knowing your wife's background, where she comes from, her personal inclinations, her things she likes and is interested in, things that bother her, her pet peeves, all of that is included in this as well. And so we have a hadith that actually confirms this meaning. So we know that Abu Sufyan, he was of the late converts to Islam. He was a very prominent, well-respected Quraysh man of a very wealthy background. His wife Hind came complaining to the Prophet ﷺ that my husband is a frugal man. He's stingy. And so he's not taking care of our needs as he should. So the Prophet ﷺ, he told her, خُذِي مِن مَالِهِ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ مَا يَكْفِيكِ وَمَا يَكْفِي بَنِيكِ. So the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith that's in Bukhari and Muslim, muttafaqun alayh, that the Prophet instructed Hind to take some of Abu Sufyan's wealth to support her needs that she has and her children's needs, bil ma'ruf. And so everybody understood this hadith meaning bil ma'ruf. What is reasonable for you? What is a reason? You're not trying to get rich and live extravagantly and have all kinds of things you don't really need. But the things that you need to put. So Hind comes from a very wealthy, noble family. It wouldn't be fair and wouldn't be ma'ruf. It wouldn't be right for Abu Sufyan to treat her as though she's living in a poor family. You see what I'm saying? And so here is where the Prophet ﷺ is using specific circumstances to gauge what is the best mode of action. So the scholar said that this expected treatment and reasonable need here in these ayahs and many other ayahs in hadith is based upon the person, the place, and the circumstances specifically. We call that urf. Urf. What is known to be the right thing in generality. We call that in English culture, right? Or if it's one person in one act, it's called ada, a custom. So that the scholars took from this all four schools of thought. Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, all of them are in agreement that the local custom and the local culture can be a means of deciding as a basis what is the right thing to do versus what is the wrong thing to do. And they gave two conditions. Right? They said there's two conditions for the custom to have its role in deciding right and wrong. Number one, it can't trump what is above it in terms of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet. If there's a clear ayah that says that thing is bad, we can't say, well, in our culture here, we've decided it's good, and so now we're not going to follow that, because now we have a conflict between people's interests and the divine message. So that's number one. Number two, it's a general teaching, but the specifics, the details were not given. So now if we have a general teaching in the Quran and the Hadith about some value, what is good or what is right, we would go to the local customs to decide the details of how we're going to deal with that. And so, for example, we have the issue of, wedding celebrations, for example, right? So I remember one time I was a new imam in Florida, and I went to go do a wedding, the actual celebration, the walima, and it was a big celebration and everything. And the brother told me, he says, I can't believe as imam you have gone to this Hindu celebration. I said, why? Did I go to any Hindu celebration? He said, yeah, those Indian people, they do it just like Hindus and Muslims are doing it the same way. You should go there. And I said, well, I did not see any idols or statues. I heard nobody praising idols or statues. I saw no actual acts of worship being done at all. I just saw certain acts of dress and certain behaviors and things. And so the brother doesn't understand Islam. He's thinking that Islam is a cultural thing. It's supposed to be a monolith to go forcing its way and destroying all other cultures. And the Islamophobes would love all Muslims to think that way. That would definitely fulfill their mission. So that's not a proper understanding. So whatever, if you chose to, give your wife a ring after we've all done everything in front of everybody, that's fine. I don't know about the kiss and all that, but at least giving the ring is a custom. Now, most people don't do that other places, right? It's fine. It's not, you're not Christian for giving a ring. It's just something that people here do. See what I'm saying? It's the same thing, when we put our lights out many years ago in front of our house for Ramadan, Eid. Some Muslim came to visit my house and said, Astaghfirullah, why you have lights out on your house? What is this, Christmas? I said, no, it's actually Ramadan, bro. We're celebrating Ramadan, and lights are a way to celebrate. You thought those lanterns were something the Prophet said? That's from China, man. They brought that stuff back from China, and they said, these look nice, and they brought it because the scholars think this way. It's a nice custom of how to make it festive. Lanterns, they have nothing to do with Arabia. The Prophet did not start those lanterns. You know what I'm saying? It's customs. You have to be able to see and differentiate what is what here. And so the Prophet ﷺ also did say, "Al-Islam bada'a ghariban, wa sayaudu ghariban kama bada'a, fatuba lil-ghuraba." The Prophet ﷺ said, when I received this message and started teaching it to people in Arabia, it was strange. And it will become normal for some time, but then it will come back and it will be seen as strange as we're living now today. Even in many Muslim countries, if you start doing things properly Islamic, everybody says, what is he doing? Why are you doing this? This is the ayah and the hadith. We should be doing this. Like, nobody does that. We've never heard anybody doing it. Nobody does this anymore, right? And so this is where the Prophet ﷺ said, glad tidings to the strangers. Right? So is there a conflict here between these two ideas? Is it that Islam wants us to be separatists, to isolate ourselves in seclusion, that these are the kuffar and I'm the believers? No, that's not what the Prophet ﷺ was saying. Well, what did the hadith mean? It meant, so when the Prophet ﷺ started calling people to Islam, what he did was then he changed his outfit for the Islamic outfit, and then he started eating the Islamic food way, and then he started changing his language because he didn't want to touch the language of the kuffar and all of that. No. These are all customs. He maintained all of those exactly as he was doing before, as Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab and Umayr bin Khalaf, all of them, he was maintaining the same Arab culture as all of them, right? What was strange is, no, we will not worship these statues. We worship God alone and nothing else. We will not disrespect and abuse people because they are not with financial status or whatever. We do not believe in tribalism anymore. There was various beliefs and values that the Quran taught that contradicted and conflicted with the very normative attitudes and ways of the Arab people. So that's what the Prophet ﷺ was talking about when he said, be a stranger, right? So if you're with people and people are conducting themselves in a certain way, and you notice that that's wrong, that's sinful, then you will not join in with that. You're saying, guys, I don't agree with this way of doing things. I'm gonna have to go. Unless you guys can stop this, I gotta go, do my own thing. I respect you guys, way of doing things, but me, I think it's wrong. And so that is an attitude that we'll be a stranger. We'll be glad to be a stranger to people. And so when we look at the Prophet ﷺ, when it says "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum," whoever imitates a people is one among them. So in one aspect, it's a normal good thing. Like, I'm American, I live in this society, I have many cultural things very similar to many Americans, right? So I'm one among the Americans, right? But I'm not a Christian, and I'm not a Jew, and I'm not an atheist, and I'm not a Hindu or a Buddhist. So you'll not find me adopting those patterns of behavior. You see what I'm saying? So the Prophet ﷺ was not going along with polytheistic practices and rituals when he received this message, and he taught against that. So that was where we stand out. There are various ways we should be standing out. So a lot of Muslims feel shy to pray when the time to prayer comes. You should be very proud and confident and say, you know what, actually, guys, I'm going to go ahead and go pray, and I'll be back. You should go pray. You don't need to go hide in some secret bunker place to pray. You find a quiet place where you're not going to be disrupted, and you pray, even if it's like 10 feet from the people you were speaking with. It's a good example. So you're doing dawah and worship at the same time. So people are seeing this person's principle in their connection to God. That's what they will see. No matter what happens around them, this is who they are. You see what I'm saying? So that kind of a thing will stand out, will be different, strange, right? Modesty, gender relations. Yeah. You know, when the lady comes in for the friendly hug or whatever, please, I respect your personal space, as a believer, we respect modesty and chastity as very core values. So, I appreciate if we just don't have physical contact. People will be like, this is good stuff. How can you end up in fornication? How can you end up abusing people, right? So many men, they got into this thing where he's going farther because it's natural for a man having some woman's body pressed up against you, start thinking in a certain way. That's psychology. This is not even some strange religious idea. This is basic psychology, right? And so that's why we don't do those things. Right? It's different, as we said before, a professional handshake in a public setting where nobody's going to be going alone and all of that. That is a different situation than getting physical and close. You know what I'm saying? So these are things of alcohol, gambling, things going on. I bet you this, let's put this on it. They say, no, I don't bet, I would earn my money basically by doing something worthy of earning money. There's no reason to bet. That's not a way to earn money. You'll lose money doing that. Oh, let's go drink. Guys, we're going. You know what? If you want to go to the gym, if you want to just hang out and talk, everything, I'm good. But we're all going to go drink. I can't join that. Alcohol causes many problems, and as a believer, I don't drink. I stay away from people who are drinking. If you carry yourself like that, people will respect you. If you thought otherwise, the shaitan has whispered to you. Can you believe this? People in this society respect people who have values that they are principled. It's just a part of the American society. So along with this, is the issue of holidays and celebrating holidays. So as Muslims, when we read the Quran and the Sunnah, we look at the biography of the Prophet ﷺ, we see that it's very simple. We have two very clear big holidays in our faith. So Eid al-Fitr, we've now finished a month of very intense devotion and spiritual focus and reminding ourselves of who we are and where we come from and where we're going and how to stay on that path. And so now we're celebrating that we've completed that. It's exactly what the Prophet ﷺ did it. It's exactly the way it's mentioned in the Quran and the Hadith. There's no other community that can actually say the way we're worshiping in our rituals, actually we can say was done 1,000 years ago the exact same way by everyone. You know what I'm saying? They've all kind of adjusted and changed, new ideas, things got lost and all that kind of thing. It's a very special thing that we have. So there are holidays that we would avoid because they're contradicting Islam. There's holidays that are not Islam and they are against Islam. And then there are holidays that have nothing to do with any religion. And so if you wanted to take part, you can, because it's not religion, it's a custom, it's culture. See what I'm saying? So now when we look at Halloween, which is coming up, we have this kind of conundrum. A lot of Muslims feel themselves, my kid is just an innocent person, and all these other kids are going to do this, and so then therefore I should go. That's not a spiritual methodology of doing things. That's a very just kind of, my life is about pleasing my kid, even if it means displeasing Allah, right? I'm not saying that for sure displease Allah. I'm just saying, if that's your basis for making a decision, what happened to the reason the Quran and the Sunnah were revealed? Why were they revealed? If you just decide for yourself, these actions and these ways of being, it's just, I feel comfortable, other kids do it, it's no big deal, right? And so that's where we have to look into what we're doing and kind of assess the issue from the Quran and the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So Halloween is, no question, a pagan holiday that was adopted by American capitalism to the tune of $9 billion. $9 billion this day generates in economy. That's what they've done. They looked at these pagans, they said, your religion, I think we can make some money out of it, right? And so inshallah, they'll do it Eid one day and it will be great for us. But so it's 2,500 years ago. Samhain is a very well-known core festival for European pagans. The Celtic, Gaelic pagan people who worship spirits and deities that they believe in, and that this is the day when they get really intense, October 31st. And it's Halloween is taking pretty much all of its symbols and actions directly from the religious acts of worship that have been going on for 2,500 years as they do it in the pagan holiday. And so some people might say, yeah, but that's some old pagan holiday. No, actually, there are over 1 million neo-pagans in America that actually till now celebrate October 31st as Samhain, and they have the silver and the gold and the orange and the black, and they have the jack-o'-lanterns, and they have the put out the sweets and dress up in outfits to scare off the evil spirit. They have all of that. It's their religion. That's the day of their religion. They're doing it, right? So that's what that is. So the Prophet ﷺ received an ayah reminding him that there are people with different ways of doing everything, and there's been prophets sent, and prophets were given messages. ثُمَّ جَعَلْنَاكَ عَلَى شَرِيعَةٍ مِنَ الْأَمْرِ فَاتَّبِعْهَا وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. It says, we gave you this message, and now we've given you a code of living. And so follow it. Don't follow the desires of people who don't know this message. People who are not knowing revelation. People who don't follow it. Don't follow their desires. This is what we're being told about how to deal with this. So it's come to my attention by some respectable scholars that I know of here in America that some scholars have assessed Halloween in this way. They say that the overwhelming majority of Americans, some 399 million of them, they do not see Halloween as any sort of pagan rituals. It's not a pagan holiday. They don't even know. They have no idea. So these scholars are saying this is just a harmless custom that kids are enjoying, and it's just, we don't see how kids' religion is being devalued. We don't see any harm in it. So they're saying it's not a problem, it's just a custom, and it's not a sinful thing. I can say that that is a reasonable interpretation based upon the principles of Islamic jurisprudence. I disagree with that. I don't think that is right. Why? Well, as we said, for me, it is clearly a holiday that is being followed by actual polytheists, mushrikeen, that this is their holiday here in this country, our neighbors, and that they are worshiping on that day with those same exact symbols and ways. And so I would not join that or take part in that in any way, shape, or form, even if it's symbolically capitalist for fun, right? Any more than I would go get a Christmas tree and do all that. I mean, is a Christmas tree in and of itself worshiping Jesus Christ? It is not, is it? But it's related to that, and everybody knows that. It's related to the day people are believing God was born, and so we bring these things, and this is how we celebrate. You see what I'm saying? And that's how all of them are doing it. So we wouldn't do that any more than we would do this. This is my view. I would say, looking at how this is this life. I'm not going to say haram, because I really can't prove with clear, a lot of Muslims think haram is something you just throw out. Haram, kuffar, haram. Be careful. There are ayahs in hadith we've talked about in other. This is a dangerous way of living. You're signing on behalf of God and His Messenger. You have no right to do that as a common Muslim. If you heard haram from someone, say, I heard some scholars said haram. I've never talked to every scholar on earth, so I can't definitively say myself, but I heard that's a popular opinion. But I'm here to tell you other scholars have a different opinion, right? So for me, I would say avoid that, so may Allah protect us from the evil of all of the corruption. So we say, but why, Sheikh? The news is just a custom. There is lots of harm happening on this day. You see what I'm saying? Is it a good idea, if anybody here knows how the human body works, okay, that you would eat hundreds of grams of sugar many days in a row for like 2 weeks? Is that good for the balance of hormones in your body? Is that good for your teeth? Is that good for your brain? Is that good for, no, it's actually very poisonous and harmful to your body. Is it bad? Is it terrible just to have one candy or a few candy? No. But if you eat that much, which I remember because I did many Halloweens, we ate all kinds of candy. And we never knew at first why we enjoyed it, that dopamine release, but then we felt tired for the whole next week. Yeah, because the body is not reacting well to that. You see what I'm saying? It's not meant to be putting that in there, right? And so then also things like vandalism happen on this day. So people throw toilet paper, throw eggs at houses. Kids I knew growing up, I don't know if there's, I would assume people are just as evil as they always have been. We used to snatch the kids' candy bags and run off with them as teenagers. It is a fact. It's not some big widespread thing, but it's a fact that more people are hit by cars on October 31st night than any other night of the year. because people are walking around in the dark a lot, right? So when you do that, yeah, now is that going to happen to everybody? No, it's just it's there. It's a problem, right? And very rarely somebody put poisonous or things. It's not like something happens all, but it happens. So I don't see the benefit. I don't see the need to do that. والله أعلم. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Now, on the other hand, on a related note, Rabi al-Awwal, then you have the 12th day of Rabi al-Awwal, which is the Prophet's birthday. See, should I say it or not? So, is that a holiday in Islam? Many people, millions of people think it is. And in many Muslim places, you will find that that day is more festive than Eid al-Fitr or Eid al-Adha. Much more. You'll see it. And they put it on the calendar. And if you ask any non-Muslim who's living there, they will tell you that's a holiday. I know it from the place that I work. I know it from the calendar. And I've heard the songs and things happening in mosques and so forth. So the question is how do we deal with this? So Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the central figure to our being Muslim. We can't know Allah without the message came to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So loving and venerating Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is of the greatest acts of worship. Right? So here we fall into this situation where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man ahdatha shay'an fi amrina hadha ma laysa minhu furad." Whoever introduced in the practice of Islam something that was not originally there, "Man amila amalan laysa alayhi amruna furad." That whoever act on something, and this is as a Muslim, is what we should do, right? Then if that action is not proven to be something the Prophet and his companions were doing, then it will be rejected. It's an innovation in religion. And so the Prophet ﷺ made this so big of a deal that it's a hadith mutawatir. This hadith has been narrated by dozens of companions. And it has been narrated all over, and every single imam made this a big deal. Because we're the final message. I came from Christianity, so I can here to tell you. Studying Christianity, you can see that started happening, this one, this idea, this belief, this practice, this ritual, this worship. When you can go down the street and see a rock and roll blast fest in the church on Sunday, that's worship, and they call that worship. With guitars on electric, everything. You can see people flailing around on the ground speaking in tongues, talking about the Holy Spirit is in. Can you find Jesus and his companions? No, they did not do this. But when they're doing it, So when you open these doors, it becomes a big problem. And so if we want to make sure that we keep what I'm doing is God's will, we have to go back to the scripture. So the question is, when did this prophet's birthday start? He was 4 centuries after the Prophet. 400 years of time. None of the believers, none of the 4 imams, none of their followers, none of them felt the need to do this. Nobody was like, hey, everybody, because there's a hadith that said that the Prophet ﷺ was fasting on Monday, and he said that was the day I was born. This means and what we should do. Actually, they came up with that after because the Fatimid Shia North African dynasty started this thing. And then Muslims started to backtrack, justifying and it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. They started trying to find a way to prove that this is the right thing to do. So many scholars, they said, and there are many great scholars in our history, I'm a drop in their ocean of knowledge, okay, that said this is acceptable way of venerating the Prophet. What is their justification? It's not worship, it's not a holiday in Islam, it's a custom that's meant to maintain our love for the Prophet. That's a great theory. I just don't see anybody believing that as the common people who do it. I don't see that that's how they look at it, right? They don't have that nuance. And to expect an average Muslim in the world, particularly today, to have that nuance is not, I think, reasonable, right? So that's why I feel like celebrating the birth of the Prophet is even more problematic Islamically than celebrating Halloween, is my perspective. It sounds weird to some people, but I can tell you it's purely rooted in Quran and Sunnah. I'm not allowing anyone, any group, any culture, any power play to tell me how I should believe and what I should do. No matter how popular, no matter how much I look, what is the evidence? Why should I do or not do such and such? According to what? According to God and his messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I feel like it's important for all of us to really take a step back and make sure what we're doing, what we're saying, what we're believing, our worldview, our attitudes, that they're rooted in actual Islam. Because for many Muslims, they're being born in a country that's everybody's Muslim, they're thinking everything here must be Islam, because we're Muslim. I'm here to tell you a good study will tell you we have a lot of work to do in the Muslim world. But we're here, and so we have to figure out how to navigate here and how to raise our children here to preserve ourselves as believers and to communicate this message and to maintain the message as it was revealed.